Greetings, Mandalorians. Today we're painting Clan Wren for Star Wars Legion, so polish your Beskar and let's do some hobby. So here we have the box for the Clan Wren unit expansion, and this box actually makes two different units, Clan Wren and then the generic Mandalorian Resistance. Now this is one of the newer hard plastic kits for Star Wars Legion, so the parts come on sprues. So the first thing we're gonna need to do is clip them off. There's a lot of different parts, so thankfully it comes with instructions, and we're just going to clip all of the parts off the sprue. They're helpfully all sort of labelled A, B, C, D for the different parts. In contrast to the older soft plastic kits, there are many more pieces for each of the models, and they're designed in a way to minimise visible mould lines. So as a consequence of that, there are more pieces, but the pieces that you do get still have mold lines, so we want to clean those off with a knife. And then I'm going to use plastic cement to glue the parts together. I like Tamiya extra thin, so it comes with a little applicator, so we just want to brush a good amount onto one of the sides of each piece that you want to connect to the other, and you'll see that they slot in pretty nicely, and because of that thin cement, you can really minimize any sort of gap or spilt glue, so you get a nice neat kind of connection there. So you just want to go ahead and do that for all the parts. Some of the parts are optional, so for example this backpack has a rocket on it, or you could just use a normal backpack. So once I've done that, I'm going to spray them, and I've sprayed them in Mechanicus Standard Grey. So I want to follow mostly the box art, but this grey is a bit of a mid-tone in between the lighter and the darker grey. So I'm going to use a combination of Nuln Oil and Lamian Medium, about a 50-50 mix, and I'm just going to apply that all over the model. So this is going to give me some recess shading, just subtly, without causing too many pools in the main parts of the armor over the smooth plates. So I'm just going to go all over all the models with that, and then once it's dry, I'm going to use Dawnstone to start dry brushing. Now, compared to the first video I made with the Stormtroopers, I'm using a slightly different dry brushing technique. What this one involves is slightly wetting the brush, and I use the pad between my thumb and finger to test how much moisture is on the brush. So the result of this is a smoother application of the paint when I'm dry brushing, and it's going to eliminate the chalkiness that I got with the Stormtroopers. So first with the Dawnstone, and then I'm going to do a lighter dry brush with Grey Sear, just going in sort of a top-down motion to try and replicate where light would fall if the sun was beaming overhead. You can try and do a really smooth transition, but these are not painting competition standard. I just want to get a nice little highlight, so I'm just going to go over all of the armor plates and make sure I catch them all. Next I'm going to use Basilicum Grey for the undersuit, so I'm just going to go through and carefully pick out all the undersuit parts, making sure I don't spill any onto the armor plates, using the contrast to run into all the little corners and cracks and crevices. And the next one I'm going to use is Garagax Sewer, and I'm going to paint all of the little leather details on these models. So I'm going to start off with their belts and their gun holsters and all the straps that connect all those together. So there's quite a few of those in each of the models, so I'm going to go around and do that. I'm also going to paint their shoes in that same brown. There is some variation on the box art, but I'm just going to do them all brown, and I'm also going to paint their gloves and some of the little pouches that are attached to their armor plates on their arms and legs too. Next is Black Templar, so I'm going to paint the soles of their shoes in the Black Templar, and then after that's done, I'm going to paint the little details on their belts, like the grenades, and then also any parts that I want to go back later and paint silver, like the belt buckle. I'm also going to paint their guns and also some of the parts of their rocket packs. Some of the sort of more rockety parts of the rocket pack while keeping the outer casing in the grey. Next up is Lead Belcher and Nuln Oil, so just going back over some of the Black Templar parts on the belts, some edges of their grenades, little buckles, and those metal parts of the jetpack. I was going to leave some black parts, but I ended up just doing all of the jetpack's parts in silver. I'm also going to pick out some parts of the gun, like the barrel or parts of the barrel in silver too, so it's not just all black. And then going to take the Nuln Oil and just apply that over the top of all the silver to give it a nice dull down and shading. Next up, I'm going to use Flesh Tearer's Red to paint the little reticle in the viewfinder things. Then I'm going to use some buttony kind of colours, red, blue, green, to paint some of the buttons on their forearm little controller pads. So just little tiny dots here and there just to give a bit of a pop to the model. So next to add some more colour is Magos Purple. So I'm going to paint the Beskar Duelist's cape in that. This is quite thin, so I went back and did a second coat. And then I'm also going to paint Tristan Wren's shoulder pad in that purple colour. This just gives little pops of colour in a mostly dull model. And then I'm going to use Agaros Dunes to paint the inside of the cloak, just so it's not just all the same colour. Gives a kind of effect that it's a luxurious fabric. And after that, they are pretty good, and you could stop there and use them for the tabletop as they are. But one of the features of Clan Red are their yellow markings, so I'm going to use the reference guide in the box to try and do this. So I'm going to use Dawn Yellow first, and this is kind of a test to see if I can get a kind of yellow that I like using mostly contrast. So I'm going to first underpaint the part in Dawn Yellow, and then I'm going to do about a 50-50 mix of Iandin Yellow and contrast medium to go over the top. I think this way gives me a good colour and some subtle shading at the same time. So now I'm going to go across all of the models and just carefully fill in the lines as per the box art. I didn't 100% follow it, just making sure that I get something that looks reasonably similar to the box art. I'm not sure if there's some kind of lore reason behind the particular designs that Clan Wren has. I haven't really watched the cartoons. So I'm just going to just be careful and paint out those shapes before then going over to the top of those with my thinned down Iandin Yellow mix. It's not going to be perfect, but you just give it a go and try and be as neat as possible. You can see it's slightly wonky, but it's good enough for me. So now I'm going to use Mechanicus Standard Grey and just paint out some thin lines to get those really fine kind of designs into their helmets especially. So yeah, just try and be really steady here. Connect your hands as much as possible. You can see my fingers are resting on top of each other. Just so you get as stable a base as possible and get a comfortable position where you can sort of draw the line repeatedly across each other just to build up that effect. Now I'm going to also use some of that to clean up some of the wonkiness in some of the larger areas of yellow. And then I'm going to go back for some Dawn Yellow to do the little eye kind of things. So for Tristan's helmet, he's got some purple bits on it. I didn't actually have a good purple, so I sort of mixed together some Screamer pink and contrast purple. And I'm just going to paint where his purple lines on his helmet are solid first, and then do some grey in the middle of that to make it kind of look like an outline of purple, which is apparently what the box art shows. It's a bit dark, but it's as good as I'm going to get. And then his shoulder pad has a little cat face on it, so I started off with some Dawn Yellow again because I didn't have a good base paint orange in my collection. So use Dawn Yellow and then use some contrast orange to go over the top of that to get the orange lines of his little face design. And then I'm going to go back with the purple mix that I used for his helmet and just do some tiny little dots there to represent the eyes and under the mouth and the little ear kind of things. And then finally go back to Dawn Yellow to do the yellow parts. It's not 100%, but from the tabletop level it looks good. So now we put them on bases and Clan Wren is done. So hopefully you found that useful and you are now ready to defend Mandalore.